What is the dumbest idea you have ever had that actually worked? Before we start with the first story, please hit a subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. In my freshman year of college, my grades were really not great, and my parents were really strict about getting good grades. When my dad asked to see my grades, I panicked and did the inspect command on the computer where you can change typefaces on the screen to read different words and letters. I changed all of my shitty grades to good grades. My dad was so happy that I did good my first year of school. He asked me to print my results. I did, and turns out he had to send them to our car insurance company for a good student discount. Ultimately, I committed insurance fraud by accident, but I got the discount. Story 2. When I was younger, I got called into HR because I drew a very detailed picture of a penis. It was really, really good. The HR meeting happened like a week after I drew it, and my only defense was I don't recall doing that. Do you happen to have the picture? It might jog my memory. They didn't have it, of course, because I had it, and because I didn't confess, they couldn't do shit. Investigation results inconclusive. Have a nice day. Story 3. A storm broke a limb on a tree hanging over my house in my backyard, but it was still hanging on by a few splinters. I didn't want it to fall, and it wasn't in a place where I could use my ladder to get to it. So I found some rope, tied a brick to it, threw the brick and rope over the limb, made a crude rope swing, and swung and pulled at the branch until it finished breaking. It wasn't until I was using the chainsaw to cut it up that I realized how many times during my stupid idea I could have easily hurt or even killed myself. Story 4. I forgot to bring a resume to a job interview, but I had an index card in my bag. I cut the index card in half and wrote my name, my contact info, and creative problem solver in my best handwriting, and gave a copy of my business card to both the interviewers. I got the job. Story 5. I'm stuck on a cliff, but if I jump at a really sharp angle at that gravel field, I could just slide down there and be fine, just like in TV. Every time I think about this, I am amazed I'm not either flattened by a rock or impact against something. Childhood really is just the tutorial level sometimes. Story 6. In college, I was taking a class that required me to purchase an online textbook and workbook that was registered under your name, basically ensuring that each student would have to buy a new online copy each semester instead of buying used textbooks. I had a friend who took this class a semester before me, so we came up with the idea to message customer service and explain that I'd recently gotten married, so my last name had changed, and I legally changed my first name from my friend's first name to a first name, and I would need them to change it in their system. It totally worked, and the rep even congratulated me on my marriage. Story 7. This idea could have easily gotten me fired if it went wrong. I was working as art director at an animation studio, making videos for clients. One client was especially pesky about the use of yellow in the background. They wanted it to be that of their logo, which was this horrible neon piss yellow. We advised against it, but after numerous calls we had to cave and gave a version with that color. They hated it, and asked for a change. What followed were 12 versions with numerous calls in between tweaking the color over and over. Eventually I got tired of it and just sent the original version again. I didn't even bother to rename the file. The client said this looks exactly the way I wanted. Thank you. How that ever went right, I still have no idea. Story 8. I used to know a guy who, every week, would order his Saturday night curry for delivery while sitting in the pub, and then walk over the road to the curry house and get it, and himself delivered home. This went on for about 10 to 12 weeks. One week, we were sitting having a pint and the owner of the curry house walked in, took his order, and had him picked up from the pub. He said it was easier for everyone concerned. Story 9. I once faked being sick when I was in middle school and told my mom I had a sore throat and felt a cold coming on. She took me to the doctor and it turned out that I did, in fact, have strep throat LOL. Story 10. Far from the dumbest working idea in the thread, but I once got an extra day to work on a video project in high school by coming to class with a video that was just a quarter second of blackness, eagerly volunteering to go first, then acting confused and scared when the file didn't work. The teacher took pity on me and told me to just bring it the following day, and I got to finish it that evening and still got full credit as if I did it on time. Story 11. There was a swarm of hornets that had made a nest under the front of our porch with only one specific narrow entry in or out. Spray wouldn't work and it was right under our front door, so had no way to keep exterminating them. Then I realized why not whirring blades of metal. We did have an old 50s metal fan and I could maybe blow them away from the entrance so they had no way to get in. The unanticipated effect was that it worked, though after a few hours had created a Civil War battlefield of dead or dying hornets piling up like a zombie tower in World War Z. Every few moments you'd hear thunk as another hornet fell into the trap. So satisfying. Story 12. Was really desperate to leave past employer after 15 years. Had been applying and interviewing and striking out. Finally got an interview at a place where, at the time, I felt, meh, I'm not really sure this is right for me, but anything is better than where I am at. Instead of prepping for the interview, rehearsing answers, etc., I pulled an office space. I was cocky, brash, unconcerned. Made it seem like I was happy where I was at and didn't really care if I got the job or not. They called me back the next week, and I waited a week to return their call. Same deal with the second interview. When they offered me the job, I hemmed and hawed, said I needed to think about it really hard, and that it was a big move for me, etc. I came back and demanded well over $15,000 above what they were offering in salary. They accepted. Story 13. My parents used to run a bed and breakfast, and we used to keep a section of the house locked, only light security was just supposed to stop guests accidentally going into our living space. We used to keep the key on top of a door frame. Turns out the frame was hollow, and there was a hole on the top. I put the key up there. It fell into the hole but didn't sound like it dropped all the way to the floor. 14-year-old me didn't realize taking the door frame off isn't a major job, so I was a bit worried my parents would kill me. Found myself a wire coat hanger, straightened it out, and attached a magnet to the end to go key fishing. It was more out of desperation than anything else, but it somehow worked. Story 14. When I was like 7 years old, I was playing in my back garden with those incredibly bouncy little balls you got. Just bouncing them high off the house and letting them bounce randomly before trying to catch them, as you did. One time I went for this huge throw off the wall and it bounced crazily off various surfaces so fast I completely lost track of it. So my 7-year-old logic was to stand back in the same place and throw another ball the same way. I watched it bounce this way and that about 10 times before finally hitting a plant and coming to a rest in a flower bed. I went over to pull back the foliage, and sure enough there were both balls literally lying touching each other in the mud. At the time, I was like, yep, makes sense. But over the years since then, I've often thought about it and how the hell it worked. Story 15. So it was my mom's birthday. We're barbecuing and we got her to stay inside and prep food so we can decorate the front with balloons and streamers and what have you. Well, we got the whole thing done in secret as hoped. But then we realized there was no way we could get all the leftover decoration material and balloon pump inside without her noticing. Now there are 2 ways into our house. The back door that leads into the garage and then into the kitchen where Mom was, and the front door which is visible from the kitchen sink. So, I told my brother I would go in from the back door and distract her while he brought the stuff in through the front and down the hall past the kitchen. Once I got in the kitchen, it had occurred to me that I had no plan of attack, so I legit just said, "Hey Mom, look at this dance I made," and started like swaying and bopping up and down and doing jazz hands and going la 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 la. Mind you, I'm like 17 years old in this scenario, so she's just watching me, and when bro comes in and is sneaking through the hall behind her with all the stuff, I keep telling her, wait, it's about to get good, and she kept watching in confusion. The second he was in the clear, I stopped and said, okay, that's it, and that was that. We succeeded. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like more of this, please hit a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below, I'll see you in the next video.